How you doing, guys? When we started this, we were gonna do a 3-part video, and I think we're gonna make it into a 4-part video just because there's a decent amount of information. I posted some stuff on Facebook last night, and there's some questions going on, and we're learning a lot. This is the first time we've had this system in our shop. It's the first time I've seen it in person, first install and all that. So I want to go over some stuff as we're putting this together. One side's basically on. I got a couple of parts that I'm going to get at the local shop, and we'll go over that. But anyway, the old system, or the old leaf spring pack, is off, and I had a guy ask last night, why in the world do I need comfort in my trailer as I'm going down the road? And I would say it's not so much about comfort as it is just protecting all of the stuff that's in the trailer. When this suspension's going down the road, this is the old stuff. Everybody's seen it, but if you look, these bolts are worn out. They're rocking down the road. You can see the flex here. You can see the flex here. There's flex in this joint. There's flex in the spring hangers back here. And the fix would be to go in and put new springs in and put new wet bolts in, upgrade the spring shackles and all that kind of stuff, but you're still left with a suspension that pivots here, it pivots here, it pivots here, and it pivots up here, and then it does it all again back here, because every single time you hit a bump, this spring has input, and because it's all connected, when this spring has input, this wiggles, the back spring has input, and it's just rattling the crap out of the trailer. So electrical, plumbing, heating, cooling, your appliances, your microwave, your TVs, the roof line. Every time you're hitting that, the roof line's moving around. We just fixed a camper last week that had a couple of nails popping through. And those are all from moving and shaking. The lower or the less moving and shaking you put the trailer through, the less everything's going to try to flex and get out of place. And that goes even the roof. Because of the way these things are designed, especially with this old stuff, the more you go down the road, the more you flex, move, and shake, the more opportunities for roof penetrations. So I would argue with anybody that want to listen, I'm not much of an argue kind of guy, but I would say that anytime you've got suspension that looks like this, even if it's brand spanking new, the difference between the cost of just doing a spring replacement, because the springs are out of shape, they've lost some of their arch. So by the time you take the parts to replace the springs, upgrade to wet bolts, replace the equalizer, take all that out of, or make all of this suspension new, you've already bought the components to do a RoadMaster system. And the labor is basically going to be the same. I would charge the same amount to install a RoadMaster system completely brand new as I would to go through and deal with the wet bolts and bushings and all that kind of stuff. So it's a simple conversation when your suspension has gotten to the point that this trailer was in. We knew it was bad, but honestly, I didn't know it was that bad. Good heavens. Anyway, enough about that. The thing, there's some quirks to this system that we're finding, and tech support for RoadMaster, again, we're a new vendor for them, and I've called a couple of times just basic questions, and these guys are fantastic. They don't know me from Adam, and they're answering the questions, and everybody there has been super helpful. There's been a big conversation about whether or not to put wet bolts in this kit. I'm going with what RoadMaster sent me right now. I may upgrade. I'm starting to think I'm not going to upgrade, though. We'll see. It's definitely an option. But the way these springs work, this back piece is the only place that there's a bolt now, and when this piece, or when this bushing goes up into the spring hanger and the bolt goes through it, there's almost no movement here. I mean, a little tiny bit of rocking. All of the action is taking place in the front of the spring box. It actually sits in the spring box like this on wear plates. So when the spring flexes, it's actually pushing this direction. There's no shackle back here. It's located on the spring hanger itself. So this thing's barely moving. I'm not sure I see a need for a wet bolt in this location. But again, we're going to take this out on the road in stock form. I'm not afraid to improve anything if I see a need for it. RoadMaster, a lot of people will reuse U-bolts. This U-bolt, you can't really tell. I don't have x-ray vision and I can't see inside this bolt, but anytime we're doing truck suspension, truck upgrades or anything like that, U-bolts are always considered one-time use. We're going to treat them the same way. And some quirks. This is the longest U-bolt that your local trailer store is probably going to have. It's 7 1/4 inches measured from here to here. And in order to get the top plate for the shock, and they say you don't have to, but once the top plate goes on, if you use the OEM top plate on, this is a top plate for the shock, it sits like this. So you put this and then put the original top plate on it, the bolts slide up in here and everything reattaches. Actually goes this way. You can see that the U-bolts are kind of ticked off right now because they don't line up. They're stretched. That's what U-bolts do. That's the reason they're one-time use. So we've got a shop here in town that makes them while I wait. I've been using them for years and years. They're great guys. And we're just going to get brand new U-bolts the right length. RoadMaster does have a U-bolt kit that you can purchase. My recommendation, this is 7 1/4 from here to here. You're going to need about 8 1/4. I haven't looked up RoadMaster's kit to see how long their U-bolts are, but pay attention. If you're in your driveway and you're doing this thing and it's a Saturday afternoon, you're not going to find these at Home Depot, and the trailer shop's probably not going to have them, so it may shut you down. Pay attention to the length of your U-bolts when you're installing this thing. Another thing that we noticed, the shoulder bolts that they ship are longer. I think you can see that in the camera. So these are longer. This is the original, but the shoulder itself is actually a little shorter. So the shoulder on the new bolt is here. The shoulder on the old bolt is longer. You need the spring hanger to engage on the shoulder itself, so it's riding on this shaft and not on the threads. If the spring hanger is riding on the threads, this bolt's going to fail in time, and that's a bad day. This is a standard bolt. Any trailer shop, any good-sized trailer shop is going to have these in stock. So measure, before you start your install, measure the distance where your spring hanger is, check the bolt, and check the new bolt, get it up there, and make sure that these bolts are long enough before you start your install. Again, you can't put it back together if you don't have the right ones. I suppose you could throw these on temporarily, but we've actually already installed 2 of them and noticed they're not the right length. Again, just some quirks. This is an older trailer. The newer stuff, the spring hangers are a little more narrow, so it makes sense. And there's so many configurations. I'm absolutely not saying that RoadMaster has done anything wrong here. Again, I've seen nothing but top-notch support from them so far. Had a guy ask how long it takes. Right now we're about 3 hours in on the first side, but that's 3 hours of us figuring out what wrenches we need, what sockets we need, how we're going to do the video, what we're going to talk about. We're actually going to go to the other side. We're going to set the camera up and we're going to do a time lapse. So you see us go from start to finish, and I'll have some commentary in there. So if you're going to do this on your own, I would plan a good solid 6 hours, maybe longer, depends on how fast you work. Jacking up the trailer's no joke. This thing's got to be setting level. It needs to be on concrete. If you don't have concrete, please don't do this in your driveway. And if it's gravel, you literally have the trailer in the air. The only thing that's supporting it is our jack stands our blocking, cribbing, in the front jacks. So right now it's free floating, and that's no joke. There's 10,000 pounds hanging up in the air is something to pay attention to. So I would say a good solid 6, maybe 8 hours, depends on how fast you work. It's really straightforward. The instructions are great. We haven't run into any roadblocks or anything yet. So this is, first impression is it's all super high quality stuff, and I'm super impressed with everything and happy to be a part of the team. But anyway, we're going to get back to work. I'm going to run and get some U-bolts, get some shoulder bolts. We're going to put this other side together and get it done basically, and then we're going to come over to the other side and get a full installation video. But that's all I've got for now. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Our viewers, our membership's going up a bunch, and that helps the shop out. We can make more of these videos and keep doing the tutorials and answering questions and all that. We're here to help you guys out. Appreciate your time. Later.